And John, what about this book? I'm going to hear about this book. Can we hold up the book?
Oh yeah, hold on. My computer is resting on top of it. But yes, it's The Hilarious World of Depression. I've been doing a podcast for the last several years where I interview comedians and musicians who've dealt with depression. And so the book is their stories and my story, and it's often not very funny at all, but it's sort of covertly about using humor when it doesn't seem appropriate anyway, as a means of building up one's strength to face challenges. So yeah, a bunch of comedians are in there, and then a bunch of sadness and death as well. But no, I've been doing my whole national tour fell apart, and so it's all been like almost all the events then went virtual, and I've done them all from my closet here in St. Paul. And I'll just take you on a tour. So that's my workspace. And then I was going to be interviewed by Terry Gross on Fresh Air, which is very exciting. So my wife built me a studio, a recording studio. And I'm from Seattle, and I have a lot of flannel shirts. And so it's really good, like sound baffling. So it impressed Terry Gross, the audio fidelity of it. So
he complimented your audio quality?
What's that?
He complimented your audio quality?
Yeah, she said it sounded great. And and it's held up, I should also point out, with a shower rod and it's hair ties and a mattress pad. So yeah, it's public radio MacGyver up in here.
Were you like, Terry, how is my audio quality? Or did she offer a compliment?
I was like, well, I've been doing radio for a long time anyway, so I was like, okay, how are my plosives? How's the reverb here? So I, geeking out with Terry Gross. But I tell you, she interviewed me for over 2 hours. So when you hear a Fresh Air interview, they've been talking forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
When's it airing?
Oh, that aired on the 5th. It was aired on publication day. So you can go back and find me in lurking in her archives.
Oh, that's so cool.
And also online.
I think that is the pinnacle of success, honestly, being interviewed by Terry Gross. So
it was one of those things I had to not think about too much when it was happening. But it's funny. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, meeting somebody who you're familiar with the work of, especially like if they're on TV or something. It's sort of easy sometimes to talk to them because you feel like you've already known them for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never done that, but that sounds, I could see that happening. That's cool.
Must have happened a lot on Mozart in the Jungle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, working with Bernadette Peters and being like Into the Woods in 1990 when you played The Witch, I feel like. Actually, I literally did say that probably. I don't know.
Should we dive in here? Colin,
let's do it. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm going to read one piece tonight, guys. This is an oldie. And it's called The Path to Self-Awareness. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out a little bit. All right. What's your name? How tall are you? Have you been feeling any dizziness or fatigue lately? Getting to know the real you is about asking yourself lots of questions. Much better questions than these. It's about exploring your strengths and weaknesses. Are you a good free throw shooter? If not, then that's a weakness. How about dribbling or shot blocking? Hopefully one of those is a yes, or your weakness column is starting to look like a nightmare. Becoming self-aware may mean discovering aspects of yourself that you didn't notice before, like that you're double-jointed or divorced. But amid all the positives, there is always the risk that you could end up liking yourself less. This happens rarely, but when it does, boy, is it a suckaroo. You might think you know yourself, but how about that time in the restaurant when you were so sure you wanted the salmon, then spit it right out of your mouth? Or that time you bought that expensive shirt and spit it right out of your mouth? That doesn't sound like someone who knows themselves very well or who understands what's supposed to go in their mouth. According to the renowned German psychologist Erik Erikson, people who lack self-awareness are experiencing an identity crisis, a condition that comes about when the person you think you are is different than the person you truly are. This happens a lot when you catch a glimpse of your Best Buy name tag. Self-awareness can often be the gateway to personal change. If you want to quit smoking, for example, you have to know that you're a smoker first. So look down at your hand and see if there's a cigarette there. If not, then what is that in your hand? A gun? Jesus. Only when you truly know who you are will you feel the sense of freedom to mock others. Someone might walk funny, for example, but before you can safely mock them, it's important to know for sure that you don't walk funny too. Once you're clear, let them have it. Looking through old photos can be a great window into your relationships, a big piece of the self-awareness puzzle. Study the body language of the people in the photos with you. Do they seem to like you, or are they glaring at you and hitting you? Are there any pictures of you whitewater rafting? This can be a huge help in determining whether or not you like doing that. Try writing your obituary. It's a good one. Do you know yourself well enough to write about your life, or do you keep getting facts wrong? Are you even sad that you died because you sure aren't acting like it? Look into a mirror and say hello to yourself. Did you say anything back, or did you just leave yourself hanging? Try smiling. Now frown. Now look frightened. Now embarrassed. Now shocked like you just got slapped by a snooty maitre d'. Do any of these emotions feel natural to you? Try walking away from the mirror, then sneaking up on yourself. Is your first reaction, oh, there I am? Or is it, who the hell's the Chinese guy? Install a mirror above your bed so the first thing you see every morning is you. Use the little camera in the mirror to film yourself having sex with someone, then post it on the internet. Check the comments section to see if people are generally pretty positive. If so, then someone may have just found that little strength they were looking for. Remember, achieving self-awareness is a process. Even with all the mirrors and sex videos, the path is rarely clear, but rather lined with mirages of our false selves. Each of us plays so many different roles in our lives. You might be a husband, father, brother, son, boss, hung daddy 9999, and a soccer coach all at the same time. So which self is the real you? It's difficult to say, but fingers crossed it's not the porny one. Thank you.
All right. In this context, Colin, how did that come about?
How did the piece come about?
Yeah. Where was the idea?
Are you asking if I'm hung daddy 9999?
I'm implying it, but yeah.
This was in 2013, so it's hard to get into the headspace. I think I was maybe depressed, and it would have been nice if you reached out for your book.
Didn't know I was writing it yet.
Well, you could have invented time travel, okay, John?
No, I really cared.
You invented time travel. Yeah, that's it. That's me. That was the piece.
Okay.
Well, can we ask the question that someone's going to ask?
Yeah.
Decorative gourd season, motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain why you don't read it?
Yeah, I've never read it. I feel there's so many swears in it. It's filthy. I don't know. It's a weird, I never, to me, it feels like more of like a internal kind of piece, and it feels funnier. It feels funnier that way. The one time that it made me, I've heard a couple like people on YouTube have done readings or stuff like that. And the two times it made me laugh. One time was, there was a YouTube video where this family just like randomly, it was like Thanksgiving or something. And somebody had printed it out, and they just handed it to like this brother. And they're like, just read this. They're like a grandmother there. There's like random like collection. She's like, what is it? And they're like, just read it. And it was just so, he had never seen it. It was just so, it was just very funny to have him just like unfold and have no idea what he was in for. And then we did an event for the McSweeney's for this book in New York, in Brooklyn, and we actually had a few people call people out from the audience who had never read it before or heard of the piece, and to ask them to read like excerpts, and that was pretty funny.
Wow.
So yeah, but yeah, I've never read it.
And you haven't sold the film rights yet, then?
No film rights. No, nobody wants words in a movie.
And there's a bunch of swag associated with that piece too.
Yeah.
Do you have all of it? Do you get residuals?
There is mug money coming to me on a regular basis.
Sweet mug dollars.
Yeah, sweet mug money. Yeah, there's mug money, and there's a couple that's the swag. But there are some fun like Etsy people on Etsy have made a couple things that are really cool. And
oh my God, between you on Etsy and John on Terry Gross, it's like.
I mean, they're like the same. We're like in the same world right there.
You made it to Los Angeles, Sarah. So
I'm in LA.
Yeah. Colin, when you say you've never read it, like out loud, or just have never actually read the piece itself?
No, never out loud.
Out loud, okay.
Never. Yeah.
I had the experience a little while ago, a couple of years ago. Somebody sent me a YouTube from a few years before and said, have you ever seen this? And it was, do you know the British musician Jarvis Cocker?
Mm.
It was Jarvis Cocker reading a McSweeney's piece I wrote about the Hotel California. And so it's like, it was like recorded at some event, no permissions, no clearances. And it's just, and I'm like, just standing there as Jarvis Cocker reads it. Gets big laughs.
How was he? Was he good? He did a good job?
Yeah.
Well, you don't get to be a rock star by playing by the rules,
No, I was like an old blues musician that he was stealing a riff off of, I think.
You're the lead belly to his Nirvana.
Yeah, I'm often compared to lead belly, so that Well, Sarah, do you want to
Yeah. So this piece I probably wrote in 2012 and never wrote anything better. So that's cool. A caveat, so it's called So You've Knocked Over a Row of a Motorcycle Gang's Motorcycles. And in it, I mention that the motorcycle gang's girlfriends have Vespas, and now I know that would never happen. Like, that's just not a thing. The girlfriends ride on the back, or maybe they have their own bikes, but like, I'm kind of embarrassed by how little I knew at the time. Didn't even Google. But that's what great. So what else do I have to say about this? He's back. Thank you. Yeah, it's basically my genre in McSweeney's is just sort of like bad advice given very authoritatively. So you've knocked over a row of a motorcycle gang's motorcycles. First, don't panic. Although they appear to be enraged, you would not believe how many times this has happened to the motorcycle gang. At least once a week, a tourist comes seeking directions at the lonely roadside diner the motorcycle gang frequents and tips over all of their motorcycles, usually by accidentally walking backward into the first of the row. The motorcycle gang actually has domino effect tipping insurance from Allstate, but you can be sure they won't tell you that. They want you to think that you must pay, and they don't mean with money, for the damage you've caused through your clumsiness. What this motorcycle gang wants to see is the unbridled horror that spreads across your face as you realize what you've done, and you stand helplessly by as not one, not five, but 20 motorcycles topple over one by one. The process is almost excruciatingly long, just long enough that it seems you should do something to stop the chain of events. So you run to the end of the line to try and halt the tipping process by exerting your full weight against the last motorcycle, but the combined force of the 20 bikes proves to be too much, and you become pinned under the last enormous bike. You really should not have done that, because now you are in a very vulnerable position, and the motorcycle gang can now do what they enjoy doing most in the world: form a circle around you that blocks out the sun, look down upon you as they punch their fists together, and slowly chuckle or growl. Again, don't panic. You must try and muster all of your strength and roll out from under the bike. The motorcycle gang will actually allow you to stand up, as this lets them do what they enjoy doing second most in the world: slowly walk towards you as a group while you edge backwards, stammering apologies and telling them to take it easy. However, you should not be walking backward because then you bump into a second row of motorcycles. Actually, this row happens to be a row of the motorcycle gang's girlfriends' Vespas. Now, this has never happened before, and it genuinely upsets the motorcycle gang, as their insurance does not cover their girlfriends' Vespas. Although considered gifts and tax deductible, they are not covered under their Allstate plan, as again, they are not motorcycles but Vespas. Now maybe you should panic, because honestly, the motorcycle gang was not prepared for this turn of events, and now their girlfriends are upset. Although they actually do not want to beat you up, after all, it was clearly a mistake, and they are not unreasonable men. They can't back down now in front of their women. This is when you should start to run. And now you actually have an advantage, as it will take the motorcycle gang a while to right all of their toppled motorcycles. You forgot that you drove here, though. And now you're sprinting down a desert highway with no idea where you're going. After all, you did initially stop at this roadside diner to ask for directions. However, your technically flawed decision to ditch your car was actually the correct solution, as it is extremely hard to engage in a low-speed chase on a motorcycle, especially when the object of pursuit is on foot. And a motorcycle gang would never chase anyone without their motorcycles. Therefore, the motorcycle gang with their girlfriends on the back of their bikes actually shoots by you. And when the leader realizes that they have far outstripped you, he emits a shout of rage and orders everyone to turn around. But amid the confusion of a 180-degree turn, the motorcycle gang becomes tangled, and once again, their motorcycles go tumbling over. You see this, and instead of continuing to sprint toward the motorcycle gang, you quickly turn around, easy for you on foot, run back towards the diner, fumble for your keys, and triumphantly speed away in the opposite direction while the motorcycle gang shakes fists at your rapidly disappearing car. The end.
Yay.
Hilarious.
I knew that one as soon as you said the title.
Oh, cool. It's only when you start to read it you realize how many times motorcycle is said. Which is a lot.
It's a funny word.
It's a funny, yeah. I feel like it's not like in the comedy pantheon of like sandwich, clams, but motorcycle. It's good.
And the Vespa thing, explain the Vespa. I know, I'm telling you, I look back at all these pieces and there's so much wrong with all of them now. Like there's
so much wrong. Yeah, I think Vespa wise, I was living in New York at the time and Vespas were like a thing then. Like yeah. Every like moderately successful kind of guy would like have a little Vespa in the West Village. So I think that's what I was connecting it to. But yeah, as soon as I learned just the tiniest amount about motorcycle gangs, I knew that was not a thing.
Yeah.
And
it does seem like a sort of girl version of a motorcycle, though. Like it's a little smaller.
Oh my God. I mean, yes. Well, that's literally what my thought process was.
Yes.
But now it's like girls can ride bikes. They shouldn't. Like, don't ride a motorcycle. Obviously, it's so crazy dangerous.
I don't think anybody should ride a motorcycle.
No one should.
My friend actually rode a Vespa across the country from like California to Maine, which was a nightmare. Like you're not supposed to ride those on regular highways. They don't.
No, we learned that from Dumb and Dumber.
Right.
Did your friend go on the interstate, or was it all back?
No, it was interstate. It was a nightmare. It was like I forget what it was called, like some kind of cannonball run type of organized event, but it was just hell on earth.
But just like for stupid people, or
what is it? What
was it? Just for stupid people, or
yeah,
was it?
So you're totally right. One viewing of Dumb and Dumber, and he wouldn't have done that. Amazing.
How often do you have to refuel?
Oh, so often. It's not meant for, the gas tank is tiny. It's a disaster. And trucks are like, just like the whole thing is just flapping.
Yeah.
Both cold and hot.
Riding on the right shoulder for part of it, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah, how did your piece come about? Where'd you get the idea?
I mean, again, like 2012, can't super remember, but my brother did remind me, that it probably, the inkling of it came from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, probably. when he tips over a row of bikes. But I love sort of movie tropes like that, and they frequently are the seed of an idea for me, just expanding far too much from a single,
That's
idea.
kind of a foundational McSweeney's thing now that I think about it. Like John Hodgman was one of the writers very early on, and John kind of specializes in, this one idea just taken so far off into the woods.
Yeah. Oh man, his book, the areas of my expertise was so foundational for me.
Because you could just read it for days and just keep finding new things.
Yeah, the list of hobo names and
I think hobo's still okay. I wrote the piece that John from Literati referenced. I just heard somebody say like, "Oh, I would marry M&Ms if I could," and then I said, "Okay, let's just see where that goes." Marrying the concept of M&Ms? Are they marrying like a human equivalent weight in M&Ms? Are they marrying a specific, like a bag of M&Ms? There's a lot of research on my part.
So what did it end up being? Remind me.
I can't remember.
Well, we all know green M&Ms are horny, so that's like that.
Oh, do you know about why Van Halen had the M&M thing in their rider? I found this out not too long ago. So famously, Van Halen had a rule in their rider, in their tour rider, that they wanted a bowl of M&Ms in the dressing room with all the brown ones removed. And it's always been held as like the height of celebrity arrogance and, hubris or whatever. And I recently found out that the reason why it's there is that it's buried deep into the rider, the contract, after all the pyrotechnic information and the stage assembly and just all this incredible, because they traveled with an enormous set, and it's in there because that way when they get to the venue and they can check for the M&M bowl without the brown ones, and if they see it, then they know that everyone's read the rider and it's going to be okay.
No way.
And if the brown ones are there, or if there's no M&Ms there, then they say, okay, go back and check all the pyrotechnics. It's a safety issue.
That's really cool.
And
So they're not dicks. That makes sense.
We owe David Lee Roth an apology for so many things. All right, should I dive in here?
Yeah, get into it.
Okay. So this is, I'm as old as the hills, so this goes back to like 2003 maybe. And this came about when my son, who's just an hour ago finished up his freshman year of college, was 2 or 3 years old. And I was watching Winnie the Pooh movies with him, and I thought about what an intolerable office mate Winnie the Pooh would be. Just as outside of the 100-acre wood, just what a burden he would be to everyone around. So this is called Winnie the Pooh is My Coworker. March 5th. Maureen brought the new guy around who's going to be working in our group. After the Jason fiasco, we really could use someone with a little bit of a brain who can keep up on things. This guy's named Winnie, and I don't know, I just have a bad feeling. March 9th. I've been training Winnie for 3 days now, and I'm ready to kill him. I showed him how the spreadsheets are updated on the network, and he just stared at me with this blank expression. I tried to demonstrate the copy machine, but he somehow got his head stuck in one of the slots. I heard his muffled cry of, "Oh, bother," as 5 of us worked on getting him out. Honestly, is this the best that recruiting could do? Kirk thinks Winnie might be someone's cousin or something. Not a bad explanation, except that we don't have any other yellow bears working here. March 11th. Although he's worthless, everyone loves Winnie. The girls from marketing come by at least a couple of times a day to hang around his cubicle and talk to him. It's not like they respect his work since he doesn't do any. And I don't think they even respect him. They're just there to be amused. If he were to ask one of them out, they'd shoot him down so fast. I mean, I don't respect Winnie either, but at least I keep my distance. March 15th. I gave Winnie this file of research material on Crawford and Horowitz because I thought he might want to read up on it before the group meeting tomorrow. I'm doing him a favor, right? So I go to get it back from him after lunch, and I find Winnie sitting on the floor, his hand in a honey jar, and all this paperwork, including the file I need, smeared with thick honey. It's unusable now. I might as well throw it away. Trying to not just go off on the bear, I asked him what the hell happened. He looked all confused and mumbled something about needing a little post-lunch snack. Jesus, have a freaking apple, dude. March 16th. Turns out Winnie got honey all over his keyboard as well. So what happens? They bring him a whole new computer. Top of the line machine, too. Here, I've been pounding away on this ancient piece of crap for years, and Mr. Honeypot gets a whole new setup. The tech guy who came by said it looked like Winnie had never even turned the old machine on. March 19th. Winnie's friends came by to take him out for lunch today. A little pig, a pissed off looking rabbit, an adolescent kangaroo, and a tiger that had to be on coke. Kirk said he saw them at Sbarro eating their slices and looking scared. I guess they live way out in the country or something, so I bet the big city blew their minds. Winnie was really happy around them, though. I guess that's good since he's just been sitting around here moping all the time and staring out the window. He should just leave and spend all his time with them. March 26th. 3 times this week, Winnie asked if I wanted to join him for a picnic or maybe an adventure. No thanks, I tell him very pointedly. I have a lot of work to do. He just sighs and walks off on his own. Silly old bear. March 30th. It's Robin. Walt Robin, the VP of Finance. That's how Winnie got the job. Apparently Winnie has some sort of relationship with Robin's grandson or nephew or something. That's what Kirk told me. He knows someone in HR. Frankly, I wonder if that's going to be enough to let Winnie stick around. He showed up 3 hours late today and gave this long story about being chased by bees. Then he brought out another honey pot. His cubicle is covered with empty ones. Ate the honey with his hands for a while and passed out on his desk. I mean, it is so far beyond just not contributing to the workload at this point. It's unhygienic for us, and he's so clearly not healthy. I mean, someone should do something. Tammy from marketing came by to rub his tummy today. Unbelievable. April 6th. Winnie hasn't shown up in 3 days. I figured he called in sick, but I guess no one's heard anything. He has no phone, so no one's been able to reach him. April 7th. HR asked me to drive out to Winnie's house since I'm his best friend at the company. Sad. I followed the directions, and I found him in this hollowed out tree where he apparently lives. He must have offered me honey like 12 times. I have to admit he looked happier than he ever did at work. I asked if he was planning on coming back to work, but he just said that the office was quite an adventure, but that he was glad to be home. He really is a nice guy, but I think it's better for everyone that it's over. He told me to come back and visit sometime, and I lied and I said I would. So that's a very old one. And I have one more I'm going to read that I didn't write because I just sometimes seize on these opportunities to read other people's things that I like a lot. So this is by Ellie Kemper from The Office and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, who's a very good McSweeney's writer also. So this is something she wrote called Following My Creative Writing Teacher's Advice to Write, quote, Like My Parents Are Dead, unquote. From Autumn Days Are Fleeting. There was a slight nip in the air, and I pulled my anorak closer. The leaves were beginning to turn. Orange, brown, bright yellow. Autumn, I thought. I inhaled deeply, imagining the crisp air filling my lungs. Oh God, I miss Mom. Why did you take her from me, God? Why did she have to die? She is gone. From 7 days, 5 of them working. I agreed with Cynthia. I did. 4 hours would never be enough time to prepare the presentation. There was too much data. There were too many bar graphs. It wasn't our fault. We were told the meeting would be on Thursday. It got bumped back to Wednesday. Oh God, Wednesday, my dad's favorite day. What was it he used to call it again? Oh yeah, hump day. I miss Dad so much. From Reflections on a Lake. You guys go ahead, I told Timothy. I'll wait for you at the dock. Timothy nodded. Really, what was the point of my going out on the sailboat feeling like this? I would bring down the entire party. After all, that's how both of my parents died, on a sailboat. Lakes aren't always as placid as you might think. Lakes kill. A lake killed my parents 5 months ago today. That's when they died. That's why they're gone. From Comas and Shit. Sometimes I wonder if my mother is ever coming out of this coma. This is horrible, just sitting here and watching her. The chair is so uncomfortable. It's like she isn't even here. It's like she isn't even alive. It's as though she were just, what's that sound? What does that sound mean? Nurse, I think we've lost her. I think we just lost my mom to death. From On Death. Death is inevitable and everywhere. It will happen to all of us, just like how it already happened to my parents. I would like to write about something else, but it is nearly impossible. Death fills my every thought. It's not fun to go on living when both of your parents are dead, especially when you got along really well with both of them like I did. Sure, we had our tiffs here and there, but on the whole, we were really polite to one another. How can I write about something as inconsequential as winter snow when I have no parents? It is horrible to live with parents who are dead. From Wedding Day. He's not here, I told the priest. My father is not here to give me away. The priest gave me a dirty look. I could feel my face redden with ire. He's not here, I growled, because he's dead. From Telling Children About Grandparents. You don't have any, I told Allison for the 4th time that day. You don't have any grandparents. Your father died before ever introducing me to his parents, and both of my parents are dead. You don't have a grandparent in the world because they are either dead or unknown. In my case, they're dead. Allison began to cry for the 4th time that day. From me. It was back to that nagging question. What exactly am I? A mass of bone and flesh? A clump of nails and hair? I am all of those things, but isn't there something more? Hidden in this cage of ribs, deep within these layers of tissue, lurking in these strands of sinew, isn't there a soul? I would like to think so. Otherwise, my parents are just straight up dead, deep in the ground, down in the dirt, just dead. Dead as doornails. Oh, sweet Lord, please let there be a soul. Please, God, please don't let my parents just be dead. There's something I like about how it just goes on and on in the same premise.
It's relentless. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Like, you could probably get away with 3 of them, but she just said, fuck it, I'm doing 12.
Yeah, it goes that it's like funny, and then you're like, oh god, and then it's back to funny again. It takes you through all the cycles.
Comes all the way back around to funny again.
Yeah, totally. Oh my god.
There's a lot of funny stuff in here. I mean, I gotta say. I'm
Yeah.
not shilling the book, but it's crazy funny. Like should we ask who are
Aren't we
our
here to
favorite
shill the book?
authors? Yeah, but I love anything Jason Roeder writes.
Oh, yeah.
Kate Hahn, and I love Wendy Molyneux.
No, Wendy Mullen is great.
River Clegg, we got to give him a shout out for it. The title of the book is from his piece.
All right.
He's a riot.
Jake Tapper.
Tapper is
Yeah, love him.
Wonder whatever happened to him.
he is a delight.
Donald J. Trump has 3 entries.
Yeah, who is that?
I don't know.
Uh,
There's a lot of folks from here who have been spotted other places since, I think. Wendy's been like the head writer on Bob's Burgers for a while, Wendy Molyneux.
Yep.
My friend just asked me, do I still write short stories or pieces? No. I feel I would like to. Actually, no, I wrote a new one for this book. What am I talking about? But I feel like when I was young and didn't have a job, I was very good about putting out content. And then, hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Bonnie.
And then I stopped when I started getting paid for things, which is, I'm sure we all go through that. You're less creative when you have a job.
I wrote a lot. Like I think I'm in the, whatever they call it, the old people section of the the table of contents, but I wrote a lot, and then had a lot of creative work to do, and kind of just pumped all my ideas into the day job. Bonnie knows what I'm talking about. And
Bonnie's my neighbor. Hi.
but then I started.
Bonnie, where's Bonnie? I'm missing, but where is
Oh,
she?
you don't see Bonnie?
You don't see Bonnie?
How can I not? Why am I not seeing Bonnie?
She's sort of
speaker view.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, I don't want to hold up.
But I've started.
Oh yeah, Bonnie, try to mute your video.
I see Bonnie.
Close video.
Missing out on all
It
this.
doesn't matter. I mean, we're fine.
We're fine. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I miss Bonnie now. But I've started to come back and contribute more things, because what'll happen is I'll just get an idea in my head, and the only way I can exercise it is just by typing it all out. And then, you can't usually use it in a depression podcast. So I have a piece coming out next month called, like, in typical wordy McSweeney's title fashion, like, I am the dad who installed a lava river in the rumpus room, and I'm here to answer your questions. So I just thought about all the rumpus room is another word for rec room. We're going to have to figure that one out. But all the kids who play, like, the floor is lava in the rec room. I just thought, well, what if one dad just fucking went for it? What would it take? I had to do, like, geological research, so it better be funny.
Well, that's good. You did research, unlike some people, about motorcycles. So
exactly. I didn't add a Vespa, thank God.
That's funny you mentioned the long McSweeney's title. I remember when I was first trying to get published on McSweeney's, I think I did some snarky piece like, this is a McSweeney's title, and it was just like a whole piece was a title, and bless his heart, John Warner was like, thank you, no, but keep submitting. You haven't, like, quite hit the satire of a McSweeney's title yet.
Did you guys
just? The longest title is. I feel like they must have broken like 40 words.
There must be a record. We should get Chris Monks to tell us.
Yeah.
Did you guys get into it just by? Did you just cold submit to the queue, or did you have a hookup somewhere?
I cold submitted, yeah. Actually, that goes into a question we just got. Any advice for someone trying to get their first piece published? So, I mean, I submitted and got rejected a lot of times. I guess my advice would be don't give up, and always politely, thank Chris for reading your piece and thank him for any feedback he gives, and just try again. They will publish you at some point. Just keep trying.
Well, and to that end, just write a ton. Just write all the time. And I mean, I always figure if I have an idea that I write down, better it's written down than rattling in my head. And if it means so much to me that someone publishes it, then it means that I can't write them very often. But instead I just say, well, no, I'll write another one tomorrow. I'll write 4 more tomorrow, and just build up that muscle. And the more you do it, the more you'll probably find an alignment that fits between you and McSweeney's or whatever publication you're trying to get into.
And I would just add, like, this is not a sexy thing, but I would say, when you're submitting, just really pay attention to, like, details and spell check and just all the boring stuff. But just, you have to imagine these, Chris and whatever editor you're submitting to is just getting inundated with stuff. And I think, like, it's really, really, really appreciated when you're buttoned up and you have your stuff, you follow the guidelines, your spell checked, everything's in place. I think that really actually goes a longer way than some people might realize.
Yeah. And it too, like, read that website. Like, if you want to get on the website, just read as much of it as you can, and you'll get a sense for what isn't there. There isn't going to be broad SNL type toothless SNL satire, or they're looking for originality and like an idea that hasn't been done a million times, and there's nothing gross on there. There isn't shock value, there isn't bodily function very much, unless what happens when you fall into lava river, or when you knock over some motors. I love when the person gets pinned under the other end of the row of motorcycles.
What a klutz. I mean, there's some very famous profanity, Colin, but that's the most acceptable piece of all time. So
yes, there is profanity, but only in the very best, most highly regarded pieces.
Yeah, and there's so many people who have sort of copied you in an imitation way of, you know, as the best form of flattery. But I've noticed that. Yeah. Anyway, you're a pioneer.
Well, swears are weird. I swear, I honestly have no idea why that piece worked. I still don't know. But there's a weird, because there's so many times when swears just don't work, and they just feel, you know, they just turn people off, and I don't know, it's just this weird moment in time, and it just sort of clicked. And
well, it's the perfect. Even in the title, it's the perfect punctuation, because it fully explains the premise of the piece, but the motherfucker on there just bursts through, and then suddenly you're in a new, you know, you're contrasting the, you know, Currier and Ives print Autumn.
Right.
We have some more questions. What's the hardest and longest you've ever worked on a McSweeney's piece, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'm personally, like, I have OCD'd out on pieces. I can't think of a particular piece, but I could look back and see like 15 drafts of a piece that I've written, and that's not always the case. And some pieces come quickly, and it's a draft, it's 2 drafts. But sometimes, I don't know, and I think it's like I don't know, it's just like a getting into the weeds with a piece. And they do get better, I have to say. They do get better. But it's like I'm not sure how much of that is healthy and how much of it is like normal. But it does, there's something really like, it's a great feeling when you go from, you know, the first piece through the drafts to get to where you're really, really happy with the piece. So I think it's worth it. I mean, you can lose your mind in the middle of it, but I think it's worth it. Not all of them have been like that, but I have had a couple that I look back and I had a 15 drafter, which was, God, what happened to me? What was I going through?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever spent more than a few minutes writing any piece, because like I'll have it rattle around in my head for like, I think the lava thing that I have coming out next month, which I've already overhyped, is probably been rattling around in my head for a couple of years. And then I tried to write it once, and then I forgot all about it, and because I didn't like it. And then I was just looking in my Google Docs, and there it was. So then I just wrote a completely different version of it and turned that in. But no, if I have to go like really reinvent it after the first draft, I just give up and throw it all away. I have no patience. When the idea is done baking in my head, then it's just type it out and hit send and be done with it. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way in that I sort of like vomit it out, and then I know that I need to put it away for a day, like sleep on it, and then look at it with fresh eyes. Because usually it's like, this is great, get it out. And then I'm like, no. And so I force myself to put it away, and then I look at it, I'm like, yeah, okay. And then do revisions. But usually I want things out. I want them, I know that I have to send it in before I get too precious. Otherwise I won't do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of force myself to send it
You
out.
can fuss about something, and I've done much more of this in radio, of you can fuss with comedy so much that it just starts to completely die.
When you start to hate it, yeah, it's just like
yeah,
nothing funny anymore. Okay, we have another question. Oh, sorry, John, did you have something to say? No.
How about this one? Do you guys have a writing routine, certain amount of hours per day, certain time of day, or do you just write when you're inspired?
Well, okay. For my personal stuff, I'm not like adhering to I write best in the morning, And I know I should get a couple hours in, and then I'm kind of toast unless I'm revising something or I have a deadline. But I think first thing in the morning is best for me creatively. And just my overall mood is probably better. And but now that I have it depends if when I'm in a room or if I'm not in a room, but if I'm not and I'm just purely trying to create something, yes, spend the morning writing and don't be bummed out when nothing is good.
Yeah. I write pretty much any time of the day before 8 o'clock. Because at 8 o'clock I start to shut down. I would have thought, and maybe I think I could write more when I was younger, later into the night, but now it's just garbage, so it's not worth the effort. But I'm usually writing so much that, with the book and the show, that I kind of just have to cram it all in, and I consciously try to not be particular about, I need this chair, I need, this to look a certain way. I try to just be much dirtier about that. And the McSweeney's pieces I often write as a way of playing hooky from the other things that have tighter deadlines or have actual deadlines. So if I'm stuck on like a big book passage about cognitive behavioral therapy, then I'll just go write something about lava just to kind of bust up the traffic in my head a little. Colin?
Yeah, I find that too. It's like that was like a really good find to like procrastinate from other longer form stuff with these pieces was like, what a productive way to procrastinate.
Yeah.
It was a really good realization. I was like, this is amazing. Like, and I ended up being pretty productive that way with pieces. But in terms of routine, like I think it's more for me, like if I have an idea and I'm really feeling it, I have to just sit down and just get it out, when I'm feeling it. Because when you guys know, when you're not, it's just the worst. So it's like it's just seizing on those moments when you're in that kind of flow state and you can just sort of go ape shit on something,
And that usually happens to me when I'm about to fall asleep, and it's super annoying. I'm like, F. And so I have to get up and write it down. But honestly, because you're not trying to do anything, it kind of comes in sideways. I'm sure there's a study about that I've also, but I know I'm not unique in that ideas come when you're not thinking about them.
Do you ever wake up with an idea, and then I've done this, I wake up with an idea and I just think, oh my God, this is such gold. And I go to write it, and I sometimes get like a few paragraphs in, I'm like, this is shit. This makes no sense at all.
Yeah, constantly.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
another one. Dave Eggers.
Hi.
Oh, I have a funny story about Dave Eggers. Yeah, so I thank him wherever I can, because he was really instrumental. Like the stuff, some of the stuff in this book is the first stuff I had published, and for whatever reason, he took a shine to a lot of it, and he was doing some dates on a book tour in the Northwest, so Seattle and Portland, when I was living in Seattle, and he liked the Winnie the Pooh piece that I wrote, and he and his brother had just written a book about, I think it was their book about giraffes, where it's just like a bunch of pretend information about giraffes, and like supposedly written by an eccentric professor and a jungle explorer or something. And he was touring, and he would talk, and then his brother would run slides. And I had read A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius, which is his memoir all about raising his brother. And it was like, the cognitive dissonance of his brother being a real person, it was like meeting Holden Caulfield in the flesh. But there's a line in the Winnie the Pooh thing about a tiger that had to be on coke. And so we had done one appearance, and I read that. And then before the next one, he's like, I think a lot of kids are coming to these, so I don't know about that line. And I'm like, I got it. So I would read a tiger who had drank a lot of coke. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's much better.
That's editing on the fly.
Yeah. That's a radio move right there.
Colin, do you have any?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never met him. Have you met him, Sarah?
I have just, but not, because I volunteered at 826 NYC, and it was through a volunteer event, and I wasn't like, I write for your website. It was more just, and classically I did something like, 826 is volunteering with kids or something, and I said just some dumb, like, making fun of the kids in like not a very funny way, and he was like, and kind of literally I think someone tapped him on the shoulder before I could be, I was joking, and he was like,
And then he was whispering.
I think he probably, like, his one impression of me is that I'm a jerk about kids, specifically kids who are being tutored, who just want to learn.
Yeah.
So
I did the 826 thing too. That was awesome in
It
Brooklyn.
was so much fun, yeah. But it's a classic story of like, oh, here's like one of my heroes. Let's look like an asshole.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But does anyone want to end on a brighter note than that? I'm sure he doesn't remember.
Let's keep it dark.
Carolyn's an asshole. Good night, everybody.
So is Jarvis Cocker, by the way.
Hey everybody, this is John from the bookstore. I think we maybe have time for one more question. I think actually I have one that we can end on.
All right.
The standard bookseller question to ask. Before I ask it, I'll just remind everybody that they can buy the book on our website, literatibookstore.com. Actually, the website, the page that brought you here, the event page, has links to purchase. Both Keep Scrolling Until You Feel Something and The Hilarious World of Depression, John's new book out this month. Directly from us, we can ship it to your home. So my standard bookseller question to all three of you is, what are you reading right now if you're taking time to read during your quarantine? Any recommendations to people watching at home?
I really loved this biography of Shirley Jackson. It's a great read. She's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's just an awesome book. If you like Shirley Jackson, sort of like cool, gothy, creepy, but totally normal, smart lady.
I just finished Patti Smith's memoir, Just Kids, from several years ago. Just Kids is the title, not Just Kids from several years ago. The book was published a while ago. But it's a memoir about her and Robert Mapplethorpe in New York when they were just getting started. And I had heard good things, but I've never been a Patti Smith fan in terms of the music, just didn't really speak to me. But it was just wonderful. This portrait really that she paints of like a 1970s art scene in New York and poverty and crime and just inventiveness. It was really, if you're looking to get inspired, it's a really good book.
I'm embarrassed because I'm blanking on the book I'm reading. It's the short stories by this guy. Do you guys know this book I'm talking about? It's about
Short stories by that guy.
Oh, the guy, yeah.
by a guy, and I'm searching
I read
for
his earlier stuff. Yeah.
I can't think of it. It's crazy. He's got the most.
Wait, I can. I don't know. I can try to do the old bookseller magic on you though.
Do it. Let's figure it out. All of us. Then the next, if it takes 15 minutes, it's fine, you guys.
What do you remember? What the cover looks like?
Yeah, it's like a thing that's taken apart. It's like a toy that's taken apart.
Oh,
Come on, guys.
Mark Twain.
that's recent.
It's recent. His name is so generic, and it's like I've tried to recommend this 8 times, and his name is too generic to remember.
It's short
The
stories.
genre of story, like, is
He
it?
really screwed himself. But if everybody's willing to stay on for an hour and a half, I can figure this out.
Is it like horror or?
No, it's just really dark. It's dark humor, and it's very funny. Hold on, guys.
Oh, wow, I feel really bad. Maybe it's because I haven't been in the store in a long time and I haven't had to do this in a while. But I used to pride myself on being very good at doing this, and now I feel like.
Come on.
Are you far away from the book, Colin?
No, I could go. I'm not that far away, but I'm not gonna run it. Should I run away and get it?
Yeah, I really want to know now. So I think you
You
have
have
to.
other stuff to talk about while I get it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can the name.
I'll be right back.
Oh.
You think it's like Ned Smith?
I was thinking Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, who goes by Joe Hill.
Ah.
But that's probably not it.
Yeah, I think he's got some new stuff out. Actually, we just had him for an event, but nothing that I can remember was something on the cover that is being taken apart.
Stephen King has a new book out. That's a sort of generic name.
That's right.
That's dark. And
It's Stephen King.
It was Stephen King. Oh, I know. It was the Bible.
Yeah.
God. Oh, God. I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kevin Wilson.
Oh, yeah. That's
Terrible name for a person.
not just for an author, but for a human being.
Right. I mean, this is it. It's so
That's
fun.
his nom de plume. He has like a really cool name.
Yeah.
He's very, very funny. Tunneling to the Center of the Earth.
Okay.
Good book.
Great. Well, those are a few excellent recommendations that folks can find and track down from our store if they would like. So once again, thank you to Colin and to Sarah and to John for joining us from all over the country, spanning coast to coast, truly, today. And thank you all for coming and supporting our events. Thank you for keeping us entertained during this difficult time, weird time for all of us. Thanks, guys. Thanks to all of you who joined, and stay safe and have a great evening. It seems to be sunny everywhere, so maybe take a step outside and enjoy your local woods. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks,
All right.
John, Sarah, and Colin.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
Bye.